So I'm excited for this opportunity, and we thank Creative Mornings Tel Aviv for the opportunity to have a little discussion or a philosophical consciousness talk about symmetry. For me, it's a way of looking at life. I have to ask for forgiveness for my English. I'm sure you've heard better speakers in English, but hey, it's a love day, so let's. We are Craft and Bloom, and a few words for the people who don't know us. It started as the marriage between two businesses of Emma and I. That Emma had a studio for do-it-yourself community that called the Studio, and I had a studio called Bloomfield for furniture design. And then once we got married, we understood that I told her that quite soon that we understood that we are going to be a family together. I told her, listen, we're going to live together and we're going to work together. And she was like, no, working together, no. And the reason why I wanted to work together is because we both very enthusiastic about our work. And I wouldn't say workaholic, but we put our soul into the things we do, so we better do it together, because otherwise we won't see each other. So luckily now we see each other, and so this is where we were. We were in like a big 300-meter place next to the water, where we had the employees and the carpenters and whatever. And then slowly, once we decided of really understanding what's important to us, we narrowed down into design and consulting design and creating. The next slide. So we are a contemporary design studio whose love of natural materials and minimalist aesthetics is the foundation for everything we do. It sounds very nice. And our MO is bringing simple, eco-minded living and sensible design to clients we love. And what does it mean, clients we love? It means that we don't take clients we don't love. Yes. But in this talk, I wanted to say a few things about consciousness-led design. And through symmetry, I'm going to explore this thing now. And for me, the symmetry is just an excuse for understanding the duality between the connection between even one person or a couple or whatever, the good and the bad. So the thinking of those and the realization of those two major forces it's very important for us in our creative process. And in order for us to give the best service to our clients, we found a way of looking at our approach in three aspects. So once we have a project, we look at it from three aspects, and then we can see whether we are approaching the process in a holistic way. The first one is material. Very easy to understand materials, but materials has energy, has power. When a material is let's say, very deep, and once is aging well, it contributes to the home, and it contributes to the well-being of the entire project. Because if a material, for example, is not sourced well from I don't know, from either IKEA or something that can break easily, or even if it's not break easily, but the trend is to switch it every a year or 2 or 3, it's not something that we appreciate, because we think design, and especially in materials, needs to age well, like we want ourselves to age well, so we need to take care of stuff, and we think about processes, like what is going to wear and tear, how it's going to wear and tear, and how it's combined together with other elements. And once you choose good materials, you don't need a lot, because the materials has their language. And it's for us something... one moment. I have a Hebrew notes that I need to switch to. And from the material I will talk about later on, I'll tap into that as well, because this is another secret of understanding design for me, is a very interesting research that has been done by a researcher named Nassim Haramein regarding materials, but we're going to talk it later on. The next one is the human connection. Who is the client that comes to us and what is asking? Like, what does he or she want? What's their goal? How can we, throughout our connection, like really listen to what the client is saying? For example, our latest, one of the latest projects that we did is a restaurant named Opa, which is a plant-based restaurant in Chalutzim 8 by the chef Shirel Berger. And we met Shirel on another lovely occasion. I called her and said, hey, I'm not vegan, and I enjoyed your food in your restaurant, and let's make my wife a birthday party at the house. And she came, cooked, and we started having conversation and having a good time. We didn't thought about designing a restaurant, but after a few months, when we thought about each other, she called me and she said, hey, Ofer, you want to design my new restaurant? And he said, oh, okay, we can do that. And starting by listening to her and listening truly to the things she's saying, we, as designers, we think that we have a lot of responsibility regarding when a client is saying something. Because now let's dive into psychology in 3 seconds. When somebody is asking something, the 5% of his conscious mind is talking. Because somebody here is under the age of 35. Nice, yeah. Young audience. So you're still lucky. Why I'm asking that is because 95% of everything we do by the time we are 35 is conditioned and being repetitively, it's a repetitive, thank you, repetitive things that we did over and over and over, and that became an automatic driver almost. It's our perception, our habits, our way of waking up in the morning, our way of thinking who we are, who people are. Most of 95%, it's drive from the subconscious. And when somebody is coming and saying something like, I want to have a good design in my house, or I want the restaurant to do that, or I want that. So the 5% that is speaking is the conscious one. That is the one that said, okay, I want to change. I want to do something that it is really creating an impact on my life, on life of other people. So when a client is saying something, I'm listening to what he's saying, and I'm trying to bring design. We're trying to bring the design in terms of how we create the surrounding that can support everything that he does in order to work on the subconscious level. And it's maybe sound a little abstract, but it will get even more abstract. So that's the nice thing about having a talk And it's nice because then we can really explore ideas and thoughts and things that I've been doing with Emma and through the self-exploration. And I'm trying to do some of the things that we are talking now. We are sharing our pillow talk. So our personal exploration is something that it is very important because I think it gives us a lot of I would say it gives us a place of it's a fountain of never-ending creativity, never-ending ideas, never-ending energy. And it's something that it's the transformation between a particle and a wave, and we'll talk about it soon. So, through materials, and I will go back now. Are you okay? You're with me? Yeah. Excellent. Materials. Nassim Haramein is a researcher who did in 2007 the best physics paper. He got an award for that. And he gave a very interesting idea before that. Let's go back one moment, before we go to this thing. So Nassim Haramein said something very interesting. I really strongly suggest looking for him on Google. Nassim Haramein is an Iranian that lives in Hawaii, a physicist, interesting. And he found a very interesting way of looking at design and looking at physics. I took it to design, of course. He said, everybody is looking for the God particle. You've heard about it, that the physics are looking what is the God particle? What is the God particle? How can we zoom in, and find the material that holds everything? And he said, this is a wrong way of observing reality, because it's more important of not what is the particle, what is the division? What is the division? How something chose to divide itself into many things on different levels. Even our body is divided into many things that once you observe the division, you see something that's called the sacred geometry. And sacred geometry leads us to the research that did Mr. Masaru Emoto. He's a Japanese researcher. Somebody heard about his research that called Hidden Messages from the Water. And it's an amazing, another one, it's an amazing, and he said like something very, in his research, he found that human consciousness has a direct effect on the molecular structure of water. For example, he took water from different places around the world, froze them for 3 hours in -20, and looked at the formation of the crystallization under a microscope. And here he took the same water. Hello, yeah. The same water this is, I think, from Fujiyama Dam. And he took the water from the dam, froze it for 3 hours, put it under a microscope, and this is the crystallization, or this is what happened. And then he took the same water and put intention into it, and blessed it, and put really, it's like, it's really, he put intention into it. And the same water formed this crystal. And then, and here where symmetry all of a sudden comes back to the talk. Because then you see that nature, when he wants to when nature wants to transform energy into matter in this dimension, he chooses sometimes to do it in a geometrical form. And the sacred geometry is something that I really encourage everyone to just like look and research, because it's actually the geometry of the consciousness. It's a way of understanding what is consciousness in terms of our dimension, different dimension, harmonics, and many other things. But let's go back to Mr. Amoto. And he found out that we can, our consciousness can create difference in structure. And like the second law of thermodynamics, that every energy that goes up, same energy goes down. And I started to think as whether structures influence consciousness. And it's not my idea, but because the ancients understood it already before me, that structures have a very, very strong influence on consciousness. And it has rules. It has very, very specific rules of mathematics that here is a good example of the Fibonacci spiral on in the male Fibonacci spiral, which is a square, and the female is rounded, and everything is like with the numbers phi, 1.618, and stuff like that. So the sacred geometry holds a lot of information regarding our consciousness. And if we take it even further, it's to our responsibility as designers and as people is to understand okay. To understand the structures, the most important thing that I don't have it in the slide, but because it's another topic, but I'm sure you've heard it, the flower of life. If you heard about the symbol, the flower of life, it's a very interesting way because it's a good way of creating in the basic form. It's a good way of sketching without a computer, sketching three-dimensional forms in a very easy way, but holds information for the consciousness. Okay, everybody is falling asleep now? Are you with me? Should I continue? Good. And because, as we said in the slide, we talked about personal self-exploration. So you're tapping into my thoughts, and in the morning, it's very nice to articulate it in English. A nice way of that I've heard a very good thing that Dr. Jordan Peterson is a very now famous speaker. He said, a good way of living our life is to our heroic willingness to encounter the unknown, articulate it, and share it with others. So as a designer, I think we do it in many levels. When a client comes, I want something, and then we are taking a trip into the unknown with a lot of trust from the client side. And we're trying to go to the unknown and how to articulate his thoughts, his ideas into manifestation of forms and share it with others that will use it. So this is something that when I take seriously the thought of being a designer is something that it is very important for us to communicate it with the world, because it's a way of bringing ideas that's been either long ago here, but being under a blanket for a while, or just like trying to think about new things, which is almost impossible, but sometimes you can try new things. And again here, I want us to talk about, in a few minutes, about knowledge and consciousness and symmetry. If we go back to pre-dynastic Egypt and like really 7,000 even years ago, we see that they understood symmetry in like the most crazy way. They took everything so serious, and like all the big mega structures in Egypt, for example, big statues of 50 tons, 70 tons are carved into perfect symmetry. Today, if we will ask somebody to do it, I'm not sure that he will be able to do it, and in such a large scale. But today we can tap into perfect symmetry through 3D printing, and that's a way of like really able to create something that it is perfect symmetry. And the Egyptians knew it, and and it's very interesting in archaeological standpoint, the more we come to our time, the quality of the work is being reduced. So the more you look, like for example, Roman statues are worse than Greek statues. The Romans said, yeah, let's copy the Greek. The Greeks really studied symmetry, studied geometry. They studied thoroughly. The Romans just like, we conquer, we do this, oh, nice statue, let's... And all the Greece statues and all the Greece is based on Egyptian knowledge. And Egyptian knowledge is based on previous Egyptian knowledge. And I've heard a very interesting lectures from the British Museum that the most ancient artifacts that they find in Egypt are the more elaborate to create now. It's very hard, like, you remember that? The more ancient, the more sophisticated the construction is. So it's like a very interesting of knowledge and about personal exploration about how we can unravel information from our consciousness. Every one of us contains information within our consciousness because it's tapping into the human consciousness. So we are like a big mega intergalactic web or whatever of consciousness. So every idea you hold is resonant with other people around the world without even you knowing about it. So just if I can say something regarding design, symmetry, is that it's a nice way of exploring two sides. The good, the bad, the male, the female. We hold both energies, we hold both of those things, and through that we can create the things we want. Even in our culture, Judaism holds a lot of information regarding our Star of David is the symmetry of what's above as below and stuff like that, and the world above it, sacred geometry, the geometry of consciousness, very important. You should look into it. And so Craft and Bloom is C and B. To see, imagine, create, and to be. And this is of a way of, again, encounter the unknown, articulate it, and share it with others. I thank you.
Thank you to you both.